Okay, so it's 7 p.m. We'll start now. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of AICTE Training and Learning Academy and Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan's Sardar Patel College of Engineering, our Chairman Board of Governor, Dr. Sesha Iyer, Principal in charge, Dr. Mohan Murali, FDP Coordinator, Dr. Shyambi Solanki, FDP Co-Coordinator, Dr. Kiran Bhole Sir, I, Jayant Ghorke, extend a warm welcome to you all for the second day of AICTE's two-week hybrid faculty training program on stress management, art of living, and effective communication. Yesterday, we had a very wonderful session by Dr. Prasanna Gandhi on stress management and meditation techniques, which will help us cope better with the day-to-day stress. Now, I request Minam to introduce our today's speaker.
Our speaker for today is Dr. Bishakha Majumdar. Dr. Bishakha is a PhD from the Indian Institute of Management, Indore, and an MSc in Applied Psychology from the University of Calcutta. She has taught psychology and organizational behavior at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels in the University of Calcutta. She has been an assistant professor in OB and HRM at FORA School of Management, New Delhi. She has authored one book and several research papers and case studies in human resource management, psychology, and public health, and has received, among others, the first prize in HRM in the ISB IB Global Case Competition 2018, the WDI Case Competition Award 2018, University of Michigan, USA, the MEST Management Research Award 2018, National Academy of Psychology, and the Young Scientist Award 2011, Indian Academy of Applied Psychology. She has conducted corporate trainings and workshops extensively in areas such as HR analytics, effective performance feedback, change management leadership, workplace ethics, harmonizing self and others, transactional analysis, team building, time management techniques, HR storytelling, stress management, and work life balance for organizations such as Airport Authority of India, Coal India Limited, EISAI India Private Limited, Hindustan Shipyard Limited, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India. National Academy of Customs, Indirect Tax and Narcotics, NHPC Limited, Naval Science and Private Limited. She has also conducted faculty development programs in teaching, management, and leadership for technical education quality improvement programs and AICT Training and Learning Academy, Government of India. CBSE School Principals and National Institute of Business Management, Sri Lanka. She is presently the Associate Editor of the journal South Asian Survey by SAGE. She was also a speaker for our previous ATAL FDP Developing Interpersonal Skills and Effective Communication Intelligence. We welcome you, Madam.
Thank you very much. So thank you for the kind introduction. I hope I am audible.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, you are audible clearly.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So I thank at the outset Dr. Shyambi Solanki for extending this very kind invitation to me so that I can be in this August gathering to speak to all my colleagues over here who have assembled for this faculty development program. And the secondly, the topic is really interesting. So this program is on a very relevant topic about stress management, which is actually a very critical thing that leaders across the world and particularly as faculty members we deal with on a regular basis. And consequently, this is also something that needs to be addressed before we can be effective in our own professions wherever we are. Today's topic that has been allocated to me is about shaping emergent leaders, right? So, about how we can create leaders in the classrooms where we are. So, we are, as faculty members, we have the responsibility to create leaders for the future. And to that extent, this is a very interesting way that, in interesting topic in which we can actually start talking about what basically makes an emergent leader, and how we can create a leader who is effective, who is someone who can take the nation forward in doing what is most important, that is shaping the nation's world in the future. So I will like to start off with a small question to everyone. The question is basically, how do you create an emergent leader? Right. So what are you doing currently in your classrooms to create an emergent leader, and what are the challenges you are facing in that, if any? Okay, so there are two questions. How do you create an emergent leader? And what are the challenges you are facing in your classrooms to create it? If any responses from anybody, any thoughts? Okay, so there are some thoughts coming in the chat box. Motivating students to watch documentaries about current leaders, absolutely. So if they see, for example, modeling the right behavior, giving responsibilities and encouraging them to take the initiative. Very correct from Madam Shirley Matthew. By mentoring the attitude of students. Okay, voice is low. Am I reaching you now? Is my voice clear? Does this work? Hello, am I is
Yes,
am
Yes,
ma'am.
I audible?
Ma'am,
yes,
you're
ma'am.
audible.
Okay, that's great. I think that might be some connectivity issues at some of our ends which can be causing this. There are some good suggestions that have come up. That is, you have to give responsibilities. You have to probably give them more opportunities to see leaders who are in action, right? And that can also help us to create students who are emergent leaders. And when it comes to creating emergent leaders, it's not only about the students, it's also can be youth, colleagues, faculty members who are teaching with you, who see you, who you mentor into the process. So the next question, making them responsible for some task, Shalaji said, and involving students where they have to take decision and make choices for their teams, right? So where they are put into decision making roles. Absolutely correct. So most of the time, the responses that are coming up are basically talking about what are the things that we need to do in order to make a leader, a personal leader, give them responsibility, right? So now let me ask another question, and the second question in the line is, what exactly are the challenges that you face in creating an emergent leader in your respective roles? So I will share my screen over here, and all right. I hope you can see my screen right now. What challenges you face in creating emerging leaders? So we all know the ways. You have to give them responsibilities, you have to give them tasks, you have to make them inspired by sharing stories about other leaders. So the question is, what challenges are we facing right now? Right, so you have your the code, and if you go to www.menti.com, you have to use the code 43919358, and your response will appear on the screen. The first response that has come up is shyness. Okay, interesting. So is it shyness on part of the teacher or shyness on part of the student? You want to give them responsibility, but they don't want to take it. Some students are not able to come forward. Okay, the culture of the students, interesting. Okay, so even when I try to create a leader out of them, they are peer pressure to take things easily. Okay, sometimes students try to show their superiority complex. That means they want to overpower the others without considering the other. Okay, So we are seeing two kinds of students here, right? Some are too shy to take responsibilities. They are scared they are going to fail. But at the other end, there are students that have a lot of superiority complex, and they want to show their power over others. Come forward to share ideas, discuss without hesitation. Does that come across as a challenge? Okay. Fear of failure, lack of confidence, they have been conditioned to follow too much since childhood, not team players. Okay, interesting. So we have received 10 responses over here, and each one of these responses are very interesting. So as we wait for more, basically that we are finding that there are two challenges. One, students are not open, they are feeling that they are a bit shy, they are hesitant, or the other thing is they are being dominating, they lack confidence, and they have been conditioned to follow too much since childhood. So what do we do in this situation? What are the things that we can do at this point in order to inspire our students to become emergent leaders? That's an important question, right? And there is a couple of information that came up, the background in which they are brought up affecting their attitude, and resistance in responding to new ideas. Okay, very interesting. See, when we are talking about shaping emergent leaders, the some of the responses that have come up from the class are really important because you have actually hit the nail on the head. This is exactly what the problem that we teachers face when we are told to create emergent leaders. We see that, well, it is very easy to ask people to become leaders, but it is very difficult to make somebody a leader, right? So they are not, if they are not willing to become a leader, then how can you make somebody a leader? So that is one challenge that many of us actually face in the situation when we are trying to make somebody inspired for growing up as a leader. The other challenge that is also coming up is that the question that we are often asking is, if everybody is a leader, then how will the world work? So who is going to become a follower in that case, right? So if everybody in the class is trying to become a leader, then how do we actually end up making followers out of them? And there is also this third question that sometimes they are conditioned to follow, right? And that also leaves servant leadership. Absolutely. So Joseph is very interesting, right? That servant leadership can be a concept when the leader is going to serve. Please hold on to that. We'll come back to that concept maybe during the class. And then the third question also that comes up to us is that, how do you know that a person is a leader? How do you know that a person has actually truly emerged as a leader? And what should the teacher be like in order to create such a context? So, these are very important thoughts, and thank you for sharing them with us because that has truly set the context of the thing. So, in this session, what we'll try to do is we will try to look at three very important things. We'll first try to explore how, what exactly is how do we exactly shape a transformational leader, and how do we actually end up creating more emergent leaders in our way? What are the things that we need to do? The second question that comes in is exactly why people take up leadership roles or why they don't, and what makes us successful as a leader in shaping emergent leaders, and what makes us fail despite our best intentions. And the final thing that we are going to discuss is how do we create a transformational classroom. Exactly when does the classroom become one in which we are going to create leaders for the future, and is it even necessary? So let us start off with I'll just present my slides here, and let us start off with a small story. Okay, just one second. I'm trying to share one content here. Okay, excellent. Yes, I hope my slide is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. So, shaping emergent leaders. How do we make people stand out? How do we make someone emerge as a leader in the classroom context, outside it, in organizations for the future? So, since we are all in higher education, there is one something very really good about what we are doing in our jobs to shape leaders. See, you are absolutely right when you say that the students have already the challenge for a teacher in higher education when they are shaping leaders is that they have already got a classroom that has been shaped in a certain way since childhood, and consequently many of the entrenched values and beliefs their students already have, they are already inside them, and it is very difficult to change behavior when people are already adults, they have grown up till a point, they already have lived in the society for a long time. But the good part is that for a higher education teacher is that the students have the much more likelihood of implementing what you teach them, because they will go out in the world immediately after college, and therefore there is a very little gap between what they learn in your classroom and where they apply it. And this makes the job easy for a teacher to in higher education to create emergent leaders, because students remember you very well, and whatever you say will have a greater impact, the impact of recency as we call it. So let us start off with a very small story. And this story is actually one that is attributed to Lord Gautam Buddha. Some of us might be familiar with the story, but a good story is always worth telling. So what happens in this story is that one day Lord Buddha was sitting with his uh, Shishya Anand, right? And Ananda, he asked Buddha one question. Oh Lord, is there only one version of the truth? What is truth? And Lord Buddha said, what is truth depends on the situation. Now that surprised Anand a lot. And he said, how can it be? How can what is truth depend on a situation? It has to be, truth is something fundamental. It will be true depending on exactly, irrespective of who is asking it, who is, what is the situation or not. So Lord said that you will understand. So what happened in a while, there came a visitor to Lord Buddha, right, a devotee. And he came, he bowed down to Lord Buddha, and then he asked one question. He asked the question, O Lord Buddha, is there God? Does God exist? And Lord Buddha said, yes. So when the man heard the answer, he got surprised. He was in deep thoughts, and he thought for a while and then he went away. Now, after a while, a second person came and he bowed down to Lord Buddha, and in a while he asked the same question. He said, O Lord, does God exist? Surprisingly, this time Lord Buddha gave him a different answer. He said, no, right? And when this man heard the no, he was very surprised. He sat in deep thoughts for a while and then he went away, right? Now, after a while came a third person. He bowed down to Lord Buddha, prayed to him, and then he asked the question, O Lord Buddha, does God exist? You know, there are three persons asked the same questions, and when the third person asked the same question, Lord Buddha said, I don't know. So this man was also very surprised. He was in deep thoughts for a while and then he just went away. Now you can imagine who was the most surprised person. All it was Anand, of course. He was terribly surprised. So when all three went away, he asked Lord Buddha, "Oh Master, why did you answer these three people in three different ways? The first one asked the same. All three asked the same question. To one you said yes, to one you said no, and one you said I don't know. So what is this? Does God exist?" So what Lord Buddha said in reply was very interesting. He said, "Oh, Anand, see, the first man who came and asked the question, does God exist? He doesn't believe in God. So he came and asked this question to me in order to verify his belief." So when I told him yes, he was surprised, right? Because Lord Buddha was actually seen to be one who challenged the existence of God, Dt. So when I said yes, he was surprised. If I would have said no at that point, it would have confirmed his belief and he would have stopped searching. So I said yes. He is now going to try to find information in order to challenge me. And in the process of searching for information to challenge me, he is going to find the truth. The second person who came to me did not believe in God. The second person who came to me, he believed in God. And therefore, he came to hear a yes because I am a religious person myself. But when I said no, he was surprised. Had I told yes to him, this person would have believed there is God, his search would have ended. But because I said no, he is now going to search for information in order to prove me wrong. And in the process of search, oh Anand, he is going to find the truth. And the third person, he came to me, he came with an open mind. Now, if I would have given him a definite answer at that point, yes or no, his search would have ended then and there. He would have looked no further. He would have said, Lord Buddha told me that this is the status about God, that's the end. But now that I told him I don't know, he is going to search further. He is going to ask other people, read other scriptures, books, and investigate. And in the process, he is going to find the truth. So Anand said, Lord, I have understood your point. What is the truth is depends on who is asking the question. What is interesting about this story is that this very old story demonstrates one of the very first instances of how a leader can shape a follower's thought and behavior through the actions he takes. So when as a Lord Buddha emerged as a leader, he is doing something very interesting. He is actually leaving his followers confused. He is not giving them a direct answer. Was he right in doing that or not? That's a question, important question that we are asking. But when he explains, he is actually showing how not giving a definitive answer is actually making the leader followers investigate more and empowering them to find the answer, the quest for the truth themselves. And that probably becomes important in the emergence of many more leaders like him. So this story basically demonstrates in a very nutshell what is the importance of being a leader and what does a leader actually do. So let me now ask you two questions and it would be lovely to hear your responses on that. Think about the best leader you have met. What made him or her the best? Okay? And think about the worst leader you have met. What made him or her the worst? Okay, so each one of us have a favorite leader. Some of us have a best leader, right? And some of us have the worst kind of leader we have made. So it may be a teacher, he or she might have been a teacher or a office boss, someone you have worked with in your college institutions. What made the best leader the best and what made the worst leader the worst? Some quick thoughts. You can turn on your mic and tell me or just put a thought on the chat box. Think about your best leader. What was the good thing that he or she did that made him or her your best leader? Trying to understand others, yes. So Vidyalata ji, this trying to understand, best leaders try to understand. Best leaders brings the best in his team. Great. But how? How do they do that? How did your best leader do that? Dominance can be worse. So Asta ma'am is saying that it's about dominance. So my worst leader is the one who showed dominance to me. Okay. Okay, Mr. Joseph, you're saying my mother, my college coordinators are the best. Okay. But why are they the best? What made them the best leaders? What exactly did they do? Encourage. So these are important points that are coming. They encourage. Best kind of leaders tend to encourage, they try to understand, they become supportive, they give support and mentor us to become leaders. Okay, so they try to, instead of taking power away from us, they try to make us the leaders. And the best leader I met respected others' perspectives, had trust. Worst leaders, what did they do? Quick and right decision, interest, responsibilities. Acha. But when it comes to the worst leaders, as you are saying, Dr. Patel is saying that they are not firm with their own decisions. They are biased. They show a bias. They have clear favorites in the group. Okay, so they try to be dominating, as we have got. They entrust responsibilities about good leaders, good qualities. Best leaders are good in communication skills, excellent. Okay, they are also good speakers, right? Right. So what makes the worst leaders? Poor listeners. Shyamliji, you're saying they're poor listeners. Yes, myself, worst listener, learning for example, they don't stay on their words, so they go back on their words. They don't always stick to what they say. Most of us do that, right? As teachers, who hasn't done that? So yes, we have also lived in that shoes. And they are best, while the best are empathetic, they make sure everyone else develop with them. Very nicely put. Worst, they try to dominate, they do not appreciate enough. Ankit is just a very important point. They don't pay compliments, they don't believe in inclusivity, they are self-centric. Brilliant. A lot of very interesting points have come up, and that actually shows that there are two kinds of people that are emerging in our leadership roles, right? The best kind of leaders seem to be the people who are actually the ones who try to empower their followers, right? They try to make the followers show their best, they give them opportunities, they are supportives, they respect their followers. And your favorite leader has also made you feel empowered, right? They have made you feel that you can also do it by appreciating you, by giving you compliments. Very simple things they have done. They have given you a compliment, they have said that you have done a good job, they have given you an opportunity. Whereas the worst kind of leaders, what did they do? They were dominating, they did not pay compliments, they did not listen. At least it did not appear to us that they listened to us. And most importantly, they were also sometimes biased, and they did not stick to their word, right? So that they left us confused about what is the intention of the leader, right? So you see, there's a very interesting thing. When we asked these questions to you, there were very typical answers that have come up about what makes a good leader and what makes a bad leader. Now, this is not the first time that this question has been asked, because in 1985, as early as 1985, there was a very famous psychologist called Bernard M. Bass. Bass in 1985 asked exactly the same question to hundreds of people in his world. And he asked the question, think about the best leader you have met and think about the worst leader you have met. And what made them stand out? What were the things that made a best good leader or a bad leader? And he found out that there are very interesting patterns in the responses that came out. And the patterns are somewhat very similar to what we are seeing in this class today. That people invariably say that the leader who is good makes me feel good by making me feel empowered. And the best leaders helped me grow. They made me grow as a person so that I could become a leader. Whereas whenever they are talking about the worst leaders, people always say that the worst leader was the person who scared me so that I don't take up any more opportunities to become leaders myself. And based on that, he basically gave a very important concept. He said that, see, the biggest job, the best job that a leader has to do is to transform a follower. The leader's job is not simply to take a follower to a goal. It is something more than that. Because leading a follower to a particular goal, achieving an organizational destination, making them stand first in exams is not the only thing that you are supposed to do as a leader. There is something more that the leader does which makes follower feel that they stand out in their lives. So let us stop it at this point and take you through a small survey, right? So in front of me, there will be a few questions that will come up, and I will just give you out the items one by one. As the items come, I request everyone to grab a piece of paper and a pen. Okay, keep a paper and a pen handy in front of you, and you have to read the statements and rate them on a scale of 1 to 4. So I will show a statement on the screen. If you disagree with that statement, that is, it is not what you are like, not characteristic of you, you give yourself 1. And if you feel that it is highly characteristic of you, you give yourself a 4. Right? So on a scale of 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to rate that statement. Is that clear? I hope it is clear. Please, if not, please let me know. Huh? Open your mic and let me know because I'm not able to see the chat box from this point. Okay.
Ma'am,
So
can you
for
repeat it once again?
so let me just explain once again. So for example, the first statement is here. I go out of my way to make students feel good to be around me. Right? So whenever you are having students in the class, you sometimes go beyond the ordinary and even are ready to make yourself uncomfortable in order to make the students happy, right? Sometimes you do things that other teachers would not be doing in order to make the students feel happy to be around you. How true is this statement about you? If it is highly characteristic of you, that is, if you are like this completely this person, then give a 4. And if you feel that it is not at all characteristic of me, you can give 1. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the 4 numbers scale you rate yourself on this statement. Is that clear? So you don't need to copy the statement, you just need to write down for item 1 your responses from 1 to 4, how much is the response. Okay, fine. So I go out of my way to make students feel good to be around me. So I'm ready to do things that other teachers don't do, even other teachers are not doing, in order to make students feel happy. Is that true for you or not? Okay, fine. I'm moving on to the next statement. I have an ever expanding network of people and students who trust and rely upon me. Okay, so you have a student, you have a network of students, you and other people who have worked with you, who trust you a lot and rely on you. They know that you are dependable and they have faith in you. So are you the kind of teacher, do you feel that this is true for you, that you are the kind of teacher whose ex students are going to say, oh yes sir or ma'am, we can always depend on him or her? Or is it not true for you? Please give your honest responses, because we are not going to ask you what you have written down. It's a self-assessment questionnaire, so you can all feature in different areas and there is no right or wrong answer. Number 3, students listen to my ideas and concerns not out of fear but because of my skill, knowledge and personality. So students, when you tell them to do something, or when you ask them to make a certain move, they listen to you, not because you are the teacher and you can punish them if they don't listen to you, but because they actually respect you because of your skill, knowledge and personality. How true is this for you? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 4. Fine. Number 4, I help students with their self development. You spend time in order to help students with their self development, that is going beyond the syllabus and regular teaching. You also counsel them, mentor them for the self development. How true is this for you on a scale of 1 to 4? I provide challenges for my students to help them grow, right? So you pose challenges in front of them, academic challenges, it might be co-curricular challenges, so that they can have the opportunity to learn, make mistakes and grow. How true is this for you? Okay, we have been through 5 statements over here. Please let me know if there is any issue, right? Just open your mic and let me know. If it is all right, I am moving to the next statement. Number 6, I provide an empathic shoulder when others need help. So, when people around you, your students or colleagues or family members need help, you are the person who show empathy and provide a shoulder where they can cry on, or they you basically lend a listening ear. How true is this for you? Do people come to you when they are in trouble? 7, I help students to understand my visions using tools such as images, stories, and models. So there are different ways of teaching or different ways of communicating to students what we want, what we expect. So some of us could be teaching it in the tried and tested way, jargons, theories as it is done. Or do you use innovative tools such as images, stories, and models, something that would be appealing to the students, right? Appealing to the general learner. How true is this for you? That you take trouble to find out tools such as images, stories, and models that connect with the students. 8, I use simple words, images, and symbols to convey to students what we should or could be doing. See, again, there are two kinds of teachers. Some of us like to use complex jargons. So some faculty are very openly say, let's say if you're in my classroom, you will have to learn the way I speak, right? And you have to catch up with me. Whereas some try to simplify the learning and try to connect with the students, try to use simple words, images, and symbols. How true is this for you? So, do you take time? How likely you are to take time out to simplify a complex information so that your learners understand it very quickly? As opposed to, well, my job is to teach. I will come and teach exactly the theories I want to teach. Whether you understand or not is not my concern. Which one works for you? I hope everybody is up to item 8, right? Let's move on to item 9. I help others with new ways of looking at new and ideas and concepts. That is, you have helped others to look at new, creative, innovative ways of understanding complex ideas or concepts. How true is this for you? 10. I ensure students get recognition or rewards when they achieve difficult or complex goals. Now, a lot of time it happens that when students achieve a particular goal, uh, it doesn't really come with a reward, right? So rewards only come at the end of the year. So how far do you go to ensure that when students achieve something difficult or complex, you reward them in some manner, right? Some kind of recognition is provided to them. Or do you depend on only what the institute is providing? Okay, there is no reward, so I'll stick to that. On a scale of 1 to 4, where do you lie? Please indicate. Okay, we are here till item 10. I hope everybody is keeping up. I hear a lot of silence here. So I hope everybody is keeping up, because once we end, we are going to ask you your scores, of course, anonymously. So please keep responding to these items. Okay, this will be very interesting. 11. I direct students by setting standards we agree on. So again, there are two kinds of teachers. In one kind of classroom, the teacher sets the rules and the students follow, right? And in another kind of classroom, the rules are mutually decided. So teacher asks the students that what should be the rules for this class, and students tell the rules, and together discussion happens, and ultimately they decide on what should be the ground rules. Okay, so which one is true for you? On a scale of 1 to 4, do you direct students that on orders that are mutually agreed, or is it only decided by you in your classroom? What does your classroom look like? 12. I ensure poor performance gets corrected. How true is this for you? When someone is not performing, you ensure that poor performance gets corrected. Okay. 13. I let students work towards their degree plan in the manner that they want. Okay, so every students are working for their academic achievement, be their certification, graduation, PhD. Maybe you have a PhD scholar working under you. So do you let them plan the way they work for their degree program, that is they are flexible, or do you decide for them what they should do? This is how we complete the syllabus, this is what we do next. Which one is more characteristic of you? I rarely give direction or guidance to others if I sense they can achieve their goals. So, when you sense that other people are competent enough to do things on their own, you don't give them any more guidance. You tell them that, yeah, let's go ahead and try it yourself, rather than me telling you how to do it. Okay? How true is this for you? 15. As long as things are going smoothly, I am satisfied. So, how true is this for you? So long as there is no major hiccup in the classroom, everybody is quiet, everybody is studying, everybody is just graduating, you are happy. There is nothing much you need to do. Okay, so how true is this for you? 16. I get things done. What you want to get done, you get it done. Okay, how true is this for you? Does it happen to you? 17, two more to go. I consistently provide coaching and feedback so that my students know how they are doing. So some teachers give feedback at the end of the year. So only once the papers get checked, students will come to know how they are doing. Other teachers give feedback intermittently, right? So weekly tests, weekly quizzes, they provide coaching regularly so that students know how they are progressing. How true is this for you? And the last question, I monitor all students who are having problems to ensure they meet their goal. So any student who has a problem in meeting the goal, you monitor them. So in your students, you know exactly who are the people who are facing problems to reach their goal. How true is this for you? Okay. So if you have done this entire survey, if you have filled up your form, now I will request everybody to add up the numbers. Okay, add up the numbers that you are having. So since there are 18 items and the lowest score is 1, the minimum score you will have is 18. You can't go lower than that, huh? And the maximum score that you are going to have is 72. So then you can actually find out at what level you are currently lying. Okay, so 18 to 36, I give you a minute in order to figure out, calculate. 18 to 36 is low, 37 to 54 is medium, and 55 to 72 is high score. Okay, so please calculate how much you are scoring for this particular scale. We got two responses already, 65 and 62. Oh, that's quite high. Yes. So have we got our responses? Yeah, our responses are coming in. So let me do something. Since we can get it anonymously, so what I'll do is that I will request you to go back to www.menti.com, www.menti.com, and there will be on your screen a second survey. The code remains the same. The code is 43919358. 43919358. Okay, and there is a very small question. What is your score? Low, medium, or high? Please send in the votes. Okay, so just to clarify once again, your score is in the low range if you have scored below 36, 36 or below. 37 to 54 is medium, and 55 to 72 is high. Okay, let's see the scores. 9 responses till now. We have 32 people in the classroom. We are waiting for the responses, please. All right. And you can see, if you're seeing my screen, you'll see that there is a clear pattern that is emerging. So if we are piled on the higher end, which is pretty good. Fine, let's see. Can we have some more responses, please? 10 responses. How have you scored in this exam? This is completely anonymous. Yeah, 10 responses have come in till now. And what we are seeing, as I'm waiting for the responses from others as well. But if you have played this quiz with us, what we are seeing is that your scores are piled on the higher end, which shows that most of our leaders here are doing an amazing job, right, in keeping the students engaged. So what exactly are they doing, and what exactly did we measure in this particular quiz? Let us talk about that. So see, what we have measured right now is basically from the scale which is known as Transformational Leadership Survey. And Transformational Leadership Survey, which was developed by Clark, you can find the entire survey in this link. We have just used a few items here. And this survey basically measured transformational leadership in classrooms. So what does it take for a leader, a teacher, in order to be a transformational leader? So why are we talking about a transformational leader, and who is a transformational leader? What do they transform actually? To answer that question, let us go into this concept of transactional leadership. See, Barnard Buss, when he asked those questions in 1985, who is your favorite leader and who is the worst leader you have made, and what are their qualities, he found something very interesting. He found two very clear patterns. He found that whenever people talked about a favorite leader, they always said that this leader gave me opportunities. And this leader threw challenges in front of me, which made me grow. On the other hand, the leaders who did not help me are the ones who did not give me challenges, right? Who did not make me feel good. The interesting thing was that nobody said that, very few people actually said that my favorite leader was the person who did the work for me. So there are a lot of leaders who basically do the work for their followers. But nobody said that, yes, that is the leader who is my favorite. So Bernard Buss was very surprised and he wanted to find out that why don't people like that kind of leaders. And from that came the concepts, two very interesting concepts of transactional and transformational leadership. So transactional leadership is basically the concept in psychology. So those of us here who are from psychology who would be very familiar with this concept. Transactional leadership is a situation where the leader and the leader only provides to the follower what is required in his or her role in transactions. Okay, so whenever in such a case, when you are a transactional leader and we are placed in a leadership situation, we ask the question, okay, fine, now I have been made a teacher in this college, so I have to teach this class of, say, 60 students. What is the minimum I have to do? What am I supposed to do? So I have to complete the syllabus. Okay, check. I have to do the scoring for the students, give an evaluation. Check, I will do that. Third thing is I have to ensure that they come into the class on time and their attendance gets marked. Fine. And I am sure that I have to show that they maintain decorum in the class. Okay, so these are the four things you have to do. And in addition, there might be certain other things that you also end up doing. So for example, if you have a PhD student, you say that, okay, fine, I have to get this person two publications, I have to get a person's PhD published, and that's my job. So get a work done by this person. So transactional leader tends to look at what is needs to be done to meet the requirements of the role. That's not at all a bad thing, by the way. We wish that more people on this earth were at least transactional leaders. Transactional leaders are good people because they get the work done. You know, there are leaders who are not even transactional, they don't even get this simple work done. But when leaders are transactional, so how do you know that someone is at least a good transactional leader? The first thing they do is that they manage by exceptions, which means that the leader wants to know that whether you are meeting the criteria for behavior. So they they pay attention to the follower when the follower is exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. So if you are an average in the transactional leaders classroom, you don't really get much attention there because you are the average. But if you are extraordinarily good, you get a reward, you become first, you get a reward. Or if you are extraordinarily bad, for example, you fail, the teacher will take you to task. So either reward or punishment. So only this is called management by exception. Only exceptional cases get the attention from the teacher. The second is contingent rewards. Leader gives rewards if someone performs, then they get the reward, right? So carrot and stick. So if someone is doing well, they get the reward. If someone is not doing it, they get the punishment. So this is the second characteristic of a transactional leader. Very clear cut. Third is expected outcome. So this leader decides beforehand what is expected of the student in the very beginning, and then they just see that whether the student gets those expected outcomes or not. So in the very beginning, we have to complete the syllabus, we have to get minimum 70% marks, we have to place all the students, we have to give so many 100% internship. If I am meeting all these criteria, I'm good. I don't need to bother anything about anything else. Okay, so there is also, this is quite a good approach, right? This is, at least it is getting the work done. There are certain however, very interesting things about such a leader. First of all, so before I do go ahead, let me ask this question: would you like such a leader? Do you like such a person to be around? Would you like to be in the classroom of such a leader? Let me hear some voices here. Yes. Anybody, any thoughts? Would you like to be in the classroom of such a teacher?
Not that much.
Not that much. Why not?
Because they are more focusing on what is required, right?
Okay. That's good, right, sir?
That's good, but I always prefer overall transformation.
Overall transformation. Transformation into what?
A leader which can understand each and everything. For example, um, what to say? Apart from a particular work, if a particular leader is
Okay.
encouraging me for overall development, I'm more
Mhm.
happy.
Overall development. Okay. That's one part of it. If someone is looking for overall development beyond the tried and tested, what is expected, Pravinji, okay, that's an important thought. Uh, Professor Joseph, you said that it's an okay, okay kind of teacher, right? Okay, okay kind of leader. Why do you say that? They meet all the requirements. Yes, taking the team into other paradigm is a good other paradigm, something beyond what is expected. Okay, Professor Nargis, you have raised your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Please tell me.
Okay, ma'am, related to your question, I'll say to sit in such a class, it's fine. Having such kind of a leader, it's fine because on the other hand, what you are learning is to
Mm-hmm.
do the work which is complied to you.
Mm-hmm.
Thing.
Okay, but what you're saying is that the student learns only what is delegated to that student, right?
Exactly. What is
Okay.
complied to you, at least that should be the basic manner that you need to do it. But
Okay.
as we all cherish the cherry on a cake, what is
Okay.
required apart from that is let's get the students' involvement into the
Mm-hmm.
course as well. Then it will be
Okay.
better on both the side. This is what I believe, and I would wish to have a leader in this way.
Okay, it doesn't really very interesting. What you're saying is that it doesn't really think about what is the best in us. It talks about what is the target of the syllabus, and the syllabus is not necessarily the student, right? And Monica Duggalji, you're saying that not much because you won't make efforts to draw the best out of me. Exactly. So somewhere we are feeling that it is leaving us a little dissatisfied because one thing is there that it is not customized to us. We see that we are part of a bigger system, and when we comply to the system, the teacher is going to reward me. When I don't comply to the system, the teacher is going to punish me until I comply, right? So that is all the teacher is doing. It will make me a good narrator of the syllabus, but it is not really caring about what qualities I have and what I can actually do as a person, where I can go. So maybe the student could have actually done much more. So when we need the student to write 100-word essay, we say that you write 100-word essay. These are the headings, these are the major things you have to cover, and these are the 5 books you need to read. Go ahead and read these 5 papers, write that essay, 100-word essay. But if you would have given the student an opportunity, if you just tell the student that you need to write an essay on artificial intelligence, so the student says, so what, how many words? You say, I don't know, just a minimum 100 words, but you can make it as big as you want. He says, okay, so what's the scope? What books do I need to read? I say, I don't know, just figure out. And then what happens, sometimes the student can actually surprise you, right? Because they can go into spaces and read books and make a something which is probably just absolutely will stun you with the outcome. That part gets missed in a transactional leadership. So, what are the characteristics that also come with transactional leadership? See, because it usually doesn't excite the student, and the other thing is that you are only depending on reward and punishment. Usually, people listen to a transactional leader because of their position. You don't have any specific attachment to the teacher. The teacher or the leader is important only because they can reward or punish. So the moment the power to reward or punish goes away, the teacher, you also lose interest from the teacher. So imagine the class teacher, you listen to the class teacher only till the point the teacher remains your class teacher. After that, you immediately forget because there is no emotional connect that has happened. It is a very short term approach. Secondly, the teacher or the leader is only concerned with making you complete the syllabus. Once that is done, they don't care what happens to you, where you go. So consequently, again, there is no emotional connect. Supervision becomes mandatory because they do end up influencing the followers' behavior in the short term, but then the moment they don't supervise, followers don't follow that behavior anymore, prescribed behavior anymore, because unless you supervise me, I don't know if I'm getting a reward or a punishment. So the moment the teacher walks out of the room, I have no incentive to work. The moment the teacher is giving not giving me rewards anymore, I don't have any incentive to work. So I will become completely apathetic. There is no emotional bonding that is happening in this situation. So as said, Bass and later his companion psychologist Avolio, they gave the concept of something very different. They said that as opposed to this, if you want to become a good leader, the most important thing that you do is you create another leader in your wake. So, why Bassan Avolio's theory became transformed the entire understanding of leadership in this world was because they say that the leader's job is not to get a goal met. The leader's job is not to lead the followers to a target. The leader's job is to create more leaders. So they gave us the concept of what is called a transformational leader. Why do we call them a transformational leader? Because they transform a follower into a leader. So you know you are successful as a leader when you have transformed your follower into a leader. And that's when the leader makes himself or herself irrelevant to the follower, that's when the leader's job is done. So, who is a transformational leader and what makes a transformational leadership? See, so this theory basically says that there are four different parts of a transformational leader. So, let's quickly take you through this concept because this is exactly what a leader is supposed to do, whether you are in a classroom or you are the prime minister of the country or you are probably leading an army or probably leading a huge corporate conglomerate. These are the four things that research shows works very well. The first thing is called individualized consideration. This means that the first important thing that the transformational leader does is that they make the follower feel special. They make the follower feel that I am important to the leader and the leader is paying personal attention to me, irrespective of who I am. So, for example, think about your best leader once again. So, when we think about our best leader, that this person was really good to me, chances are very high that you have shared a personal time with this leader at some point of time or other, where he or she has shown empathy to you. He or she has been considerate, understood your point, helped you out of a difficult situation, right? And that made us say that, oh, yes, that person was amazing because they somehow made us feel very special. So, this is the first thing that a leader does. They don't give attention only to the best or the worst. They give attention to every person, so that everyone in the classroom or in the office end up feeling that yes, a leader is concerned about me and the leader pays personal attention to me. That creates a very important effect. So I can give you an example of one leader I have worked with, and this leader has a very interesting style. And you know what's the interesting style? In the institute where I teach, the leader has a very interesting style that he knows the qualifications of every faculty member by heart. Right. And that's not a mean feat, considering that you have close to like 35 to 40 faculty members. Knowing everybody's curriculum vitae by heart is very difficult. And not only the curriculum vitae in the sense that where they are coming from, the previous institute, he even remembers where we graduated from and what was our subject at graduation and how many papers we have published and what are the other things we excel at, to the extent that sometimes we don't remember those things about our colleagues, right? And but he remembers. Now what happens, there is only one thing that this does. See, it is not a very difficult thing if you think of it. You just have to go through some CVs again and again until they are in your mind. You have basically marked them up. But what it does is, when he talks about this, when he introduces us to a different faculty group, or he introduces us to a visitor, and he says exactly everything about us straight from his memory, it makes us feel very special. You suddenly feel that, oh, he remembers me, he knows exactly what I've been doing. And that is the sense of individualized consideration. It makes you feel good. So that's one way of showing that you care about a person, you give him personal attention. The second thing we have is called intellectual stimulation. So intellectual stimulation basically talks about giving, placing challenges before people. Now, some leaders, and this is actually very important, the some leaders actually feel that, well, the best thing we can do as a leader is to do the job for my followers, make life easy for them. So suppose you have been a teacher, I am sure that you have encountered this situation. Even I have. And the thing is that it depends on how you react to the situation. So you tell the students that I have asked you to write a 5,000 word essay. Students come back to you and say that, ma'am, 5,000 is too big, sir, 5,000 is too big, let's make it 2,000. How do you react to that situation? Right, so you say yes or do you say no? Right, so sometimes what happens is that the leader says things that, well, let's make it simple, my students will not be able to figure out how to write a 5,000 word essay, so let's just make it a 1,000 word essay and tell them the books from where they can copy. Okay, but on the other hand, or give them the notes which they can read in order to pass the exam. So they pass, they write the exam, they do pass, they get good marks. But what happens is that they don't really get the creative challenge. While as on the other hand, there are leaders who say that, okay, fine, let me give some challenges. Some things I will do for them, but some challenges, let them face it. Let them learn on their own so that they can do it better. Right. And if you see which kind of leaders are popular, which kind of teachers are popular, invariably the first group tends to be more popular. If you give your students everything on a plate, they are going to love you. Trust me. That's that always happens. But the second thing is that if on the long run, if you go back and ask the student who was a better teacher and who helped you better, they will say that the second one. you know I know that sir or ma'am totally put our nose on the grindstone and made us work on very difficult things, but what I learned in that classroom, I'm using in my class, I'm using in my college, I'm using in my job. So that thing actually really empowers the follower. And that is what a transformational leader does. They put challenges, realistic challenges in front of the followers, even at the cost of sometimes being a little unpopular. It can happen. See, but these two things exist together, the empathy and the challenge. So while setting challenge, we have to be empathetic so that they don't feel overwhelmed or overburdened. That we have to see. But at the same time, challenges should not be taken away altogether. Third thing these leaders have is known as inspirational motivation. The four I's. So the third I is inspirational motivation, which means that they sell dreams, very frankly. That is, they give an idea which is for the future beyond the ordinary. They in a classroom, they don't talk simply about what needs to be done in order to pass the exam. They probably talk about that what do you want to do with your life. I want to see you as the CEO of an organization. I want to see you as the prime minister of the country. I want to see you as a leader of a huge social organization. So that kind of, when you put that kind of dreams in the mind of your followers, they get inspired, because these are things probably nobody else has ever told them. They never seen those things in themselves, right? So, as you correctly pointed out, from their childhood they have been taught not to dream, they have been taught not to become leaders. And one thing that the transformational leader does is they show a vision for the future. So there is a very important technique that we say, and I think you, some of us might be familiar with it. It is called the it is called the golem effect, right? And the golem effect basically says that when we tell a person repeatedly that the person is not good, the person ends up not being good, right? And the opposite of this happens when we tell a person that the person is very good at something, the person is going to be amazing, the person actually ends up doing that, right? So these techniques actually work in case of a transformational leader, whether you are in a college or you are in an office. So what happens, they say they sell dreams, transformational leaders, even when so sometimes one may say that yes, that isn't that a little bit of a cheating with the students, isn't that unethical, when you know that the student is not extraordinary but telling them they are extraordinary. Well, you see, sometimes it actually helps, because you never know the potential of a person. Selling a dream actually helps, because if we teach a person to be average, they will be average. But sometimes if we push them to be beyond the average by selling the dream, they actually end up doing something extraordinary sometimes. That's what makes a transformational leader. They do it very often. So think about any transformational leader who you can think of. If you think of freedom fighters like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, so he said, give me blood, I promise you freedom, at a time when probably freedom seemed very far off. But he sold that dream to his countrymen, and it actually happened. Similarly, there are leaders who push these extraordinary dreams which look impossible, and it actually becomes possible after a while. And the final thing is idealized influence. What is an idealized influence? The transformational leader is a role model. So they actually serve to be a role model for other people. When their followers look up to the leader, they see the behavior which they have to emulate, right? And they are looked upon by their followers as role models, that is the person I really like, someone you hero worship, basically. you do and that is the another very important characteristic of a transformational leader. So all people who are identified as transformational, be it Nelson Mandela, be it Mahatma Gandhi, or any other of your favorite leader who really motivates you, just place him or her in the shoes of a transformational leader. There must be the quality of idealized influence or charisma. That person makes you go, wow, I want to be like that, right? That is the thing you inspire in your students also. Beyond like this person knows the subject, it's like, wow, this person really knows the subject. So, what is the difference between a transformational and a transactional leader? See, when you are a transformational leader, you don't really need to give rewards and punishment. You will be so popular that your students will invariably listen to you, or your colleagues and subordinates will invariably listen to you because you are awesome, right? For example, you see, when Shah Rukh Khan steps out of Mannat, or when Amitabh Bachchan steps out of his home, he doesn't really need to give a reward for people to come and take his photo. People just do, Right, he doesn't give anybody a reward to come and wish him on his birthday, but million thousands of people wish them on their birthdays. Why? Because they are popular, like the people like them. Second is they take a long term approach, right? They are thinking beyond the immediate syllabus. The best way to get the syllabus completed is to tell the students the questions you are going to ask them, right? That will get ensure everybody gets a 90. But when you want to intellectually stimulate, in the short run it will sometimes lead to bad results, right? Because they're doing it for the first time, but in the long run they are amazing. Third is they influence the followers attitude through a long term approach, and supervision is made redundant with time, because you are transforming the followers into becoming leaders themselves. After a while you don't even need to watch them work, you don't need to supervise or give them carrots and sticks, because they like you so much they are going to listen to what you tell them to do. And because you have empowered them or you have sold them a dream, they will now work for that dream. They know that they are going to work because they want to one day become the CEO of an organization. They will no longer work for the marks in the exam. So you don't need to supervise them anymore or give them carrots and sticks, right? So these are the four characteristics that make a transformational leader stand out. Now let's give you another very important. So what are the characteristic dimensions of transformational leadership? So you have just filled a questionnaire, right? So you can also see how you feature now on specific items of the questionnaire. Right. So item 1 2 3, you can measure your scores on these but three items. These first three items in that questionnaire measured what is called charisma. Charisma is the power of the leader to be seen as a role model who is trusted and respected. Right, someone like Amitabh Bachchan, someone like you place any leader in the name, Elon Musk maybe, right? Someone who is seen as a role model, trusted, respected, liked, loved. How far do you have that quality? Second is the social dimension of transformational leadership. So, the social part is the part of the transformational leader where they actually draw their power by coaching and mentoring others. Right, so they are wonderful coaches. They create challenging situations, guide people in difficult situations. They don't shy away from difficult situations. This is the dimension. Okay. Third is vision. They sell dreams. They provide challenging visions and help people understand why do they need to do what they are doing. So why do I need to understand about the theories of chemistry? Why do I need to learn the laws of thermodynamics? You have to sell a vision first to me. And the leaders are very good at selling a vision. Item 7 to 9. Fourth is transactional. Ensure what others understand what is expected from them using mutual agreement, right? They make sure that their followers also understand what is expected from them. Fifth is delegation. Delegation is item 13 to 15, measure delegation. So, do you delegate enough? Or do you have complete control of your classroom? So this is the most important thing about which we are going to talk right now. And sixth is execution. See, even when you delegate, we need to ensure that the tasks get done. So how far you can delegate and still get things done, that is the measure. So you can now judge looking at these items that which is your strength area as a transformational leader and which is your area of weakness. So anywhere you are scoring low, you can actually be your area of weakness, which we need to develop further. Anyway, this class is amazing in transformational leadership as the scores show, and which is the area in which you need to build more. And see, there is, before we move on to the next part of the session, I just need to talk about one very important caveat, which is the difference between transformational and charismatic leaders. You see, there is something also, another concept is there, which is of the charismatic leader. And charismatic leaders are very interesting people. On the surface, charismatic leaders look like transformational leaders. just the same, but there is a very big difference. So what is similar? See, charismatic leaders tend to be very high on the charisma dimension, which is idealized influence. They are seen as a role model or an aspirational figure. Like, same about transformational leaders, right? This is the part in which they are similar, in which is why often charismatic leaders are confused to be transformational leaders. But then the next difference comes in. When you are a transformational leader, we tend to have empathy with the followers and we share limelight. So, suppose a transformational leader's team achieves something. The transformational leader says that it is my team who achieved it, it's not me. Whereas a charismatic leader is more likely to seek the limelight on himself or herself. And they say that, hey, yes, I did it, I taught them everything, and yes, because of me, they have been able to do the thing. So when you will immediately know. So if you read the newspaper, follow leaders, you will see that when there are charismatic leaders, in their organizations, very few other leaders emerge. It's only that person who only comes on media, who only gets all the limelight. Whereas if you are a transformational leader, you will see that with that leader, many other leaders emerge, who are each stalwarts in their respective fields. And the charismatic leader lets followers remain dependent on oneself. That's a problem that keeps on happening. Now, let us ask this question: how to emerge as a transformational leader? So, what exactly do we do? Till this point, are there any questions? Any questions or thoughts if you have? All right. So, let us now look at how exactly do you create emergent leaders. So, to create leaders, you have to be a transformational leader yourself first. So, how do you shape the emergent leaders? What exactly do you do? To tell you about this concept, let me now take you to another very important, interesting story. This story was shared with us by a very famous psychologist called Eric Berne. See, I'm from the field of psychology, so I try to bring psychology in most of my whatever deliberations I have, and whatever I try to discuss. Psychology plays a big role because psychology has a lot of solutions, and many theories of psychology actually gives us very interesting perspectives into how why people behave the way they do. Now, at the beginning of the class, we had two very interesting pattern of responses. One pattern of responses told us that, see, uh, I try to transform the students, but the students have been, they don't want to take responsibilities. They feel shy. And another response came that, you see, they have a superiority complex and they try to dominate over others, and which doesn't really work out. Right? So there are two kinds of people that are emerging. So let's see from the perspective of this theory of transactional analysis, why exactly do the students not take the opportunities when it is given to them, or why do they appear to be extra aggressive and therefore bad leaders? So, Eric Berne, a famous psychologist in 1954, gave a theory called transactional analysis theory, and which was later extended by his fellow psychologist Thomas Harris, who wrote a very famous book called I Am Okay, You Are Okay. Right? I think some of us must have read this book over here. Right? Games people play and I am okay, you are okay. I request everybody to read these two books. They are super interesting and let you know a lot about people. So what happens? This concept basically says that, see, whenever two people are talking, imagine any leader follower situation, or a teacher and a student. So these are the two people that we are. There are two things that work in the mind of the first person, or the leader or the teacher. One is how much the leader trusts himself or herself. So, how effective this interaction is going to be Whether it is going to be transactional or transformational or simply destructive depends on first how much the leader trusts himself or herself, which is basically the leader takes a stand: I am okay or I am not okay. So, how much confidence do you have in yourself? Why is this important? Because the moment we have confidence in ourselves, it feeds into something which is very important, which is how much confidence you have on the other person. And that is called the trust in others. You are okay or you are not okay. So, see, the interesting thing is that when do we have trust in other people? Most important reason why we have trust in other people is we have trust in ourselves. So, for example, imagine a rabbit, okay, a tiny rabbit. If you try to touch it, it is going to run away, right? They are very alert animals. If you spread a hand in order to touch the rabbit, it is going to get scared, it is going to get run away. What happens when we try to touch a tiger? I don't know how many of us have experimented, but you can quite imagine the situation. Do you think that if you are going to touch a tiger, the tiger is going to get scared, try to run away? Not really, right? Because the tiger knows that, see, I am in complete command of the situation. And if I want, I will basically tear off the hand of the person who is going to touch me. So the thing is that we can have confidence in other people only when we have confidence in ourselves. And which basically says that your trust in others stems from your trust in yourself to mend the situation if the other person turns out to be bad. Right? I can control even if things turn out badly. Now, the other person who is in this relationship, your student or your follower, also comes with the same baggage. They come with a certain amount of trust in self. I am okay, I'm not okay, and therefore a certain amount of trust in you as a leader. You are okay, you are not okay, right? And these leads to four very interesting combinations, which we call the life positions in psychology. Life positions are basically patterns of behavior, attitude, or stances that each one of us take when we are interacting with another person. So, as teachers, every time we interact with a student, we take a life position that this is my role. Okay, and when you are dealing with your children, you take a life position. When you are dealing with your spouse, if you are married, you take a life position. If you are dealing with your parents, you take a life position, and so on. Every person has a life position, and this life position changes when depending on the person you are interacting with, right? So for your children, you have one life position. For your spouse, you may have another life position. So the first life position is called I am okay, you are okay. This basically comes from the stand when the person trusts himself or herself, and the person also trusts the other person. Right? So, what happens when the person is actually trusting himself or herself, and as well as the other party, they will come to a situation which is called I am okay, you are okay. It means that basically these people are going to feel like these two boys, like who are basically friendly, right? Instead of seeing the follower or the student as someone who is down below, they see that we are compatriots, we are comparable. So I'm okay, you are okay. So I have the confidence in myself that I can control the situation. Even if you turn out to be bad, even if you mess up with your syllabus, I will be able to manage the situation. It's in my control. And the second thing is that I have confidence in you, that if I tell you that you choose the number of words for the essay or you read whatever books you like, I have confidence that initially you may copy from Wikipedia, but later on you are going to do a good job. So unless you have the confidence that your student is going to read a book and understand, read research paper and understand, you will never give them an assignment where they have to read research papers by themselves, right? So I'm okay, you are okay is the life stance of the first group. Now, Then what happens, because these people at this situation, they do three very important things. First thing is they stick to the here and now. So how many times has it happened to us that our reaction to a student is influenced by what other students have done to us before, right? That can also happen. So if I have seen one bad student in my life, I will end up thinking that, well, all students are bad. That is one thing that keeps on happening. But a teacher who takes the stand, I am okay, you are okay, they will say that no, I will give this child a fresh chance and I'll try to understand what he or she is as a person. Second is they depend on reason. They look for logic in any situation rather than doing drawing assumptions or conclusions hastily. Third thing is they like to empower because they believe that others are okay. So they like to empower and give others opportunities. Now, another stand is very common among leaders, and that stand is called I am okay, you are not okay. See, every time, and this is, I am sure it has invariably happened to each one of us in this room, if we have been teachers, that we have often felt like this mother who is talking to the child. Right? No matter how much we try to appear that we are trying to empower, we treat you as your colleague, actually what we do is this: we tell our students exactly what to do, right? And we tell them, oh, you do this, this will happen. Oh, you do this, oh, let me do this for you. Oh, you just study my notes and you are going to pass the examination, and so on and so forth, right? And what happens as a result, I take a stand in which I end up communicating to my students that I am okay, you are not okay. I am better, I know how to do it, so let me tie your shoelaces because you don't know how to tie your shoelaces. The problem with this stance is that the good thing about the stance is that your child will go to the school with tied shoelaces. The shoelaces will never be open. The problem is that they will never learn how to tie shoelaces. The what happens when you take the stand of I am okay, you are not okay, it can lead to two possible outcomes. One is the student feels like I am not okay, you are okay. Now, this is a very sad thing to happen. So, I am not okay, you are not okay is basically a situation where the follower ends up feeling like this child. You look at his face, right? So, what happens? The confidence goes entirely. So, when you say that they have been taught to follow from their childhood, this is exactly what is happening. They have been told that you have been, let me do it for you because you can't figure it out on your own, and that has completely broken their confidence. They now feel, no, I can't do that anymore, or let somebody else do it for me. And that's actually the state of victimhood, which we call I am not okay, you are okay, right? It's a major problem. And fourth stance is even more dangerous, because when sometimes people feel I am not okay, you are okay for a very long time, they gradually become rebels. And they say, I may not be okay, but you are also not okay. So sometimes the feeling of superiority also comes from a huge feeling of inferiority inside. So they shout back, they speak back without even understanding what is the situation, and we create a very destructive relationship. So how, what to do if you see these two problems in your hand as a teacher? As you rightly pointed out, you haven't created them. They have come through a system to you, and you have got adults in your hand who are taking this lifestyle. The only solution is basically leading them on to the concept of I am okay, you are okay. And how do you do that? That we do by treating them as adults. So let me now give you another example. So I'll just quickly skip this slide and show you this one. See what happens, the concept of empowerment dynamics comes from the concept of I am okay, you are not okay. And that gives us the concept of three kind of people: the rescuer, the victim, and the persecutors. What happens? See, when a leader is a rescuer, rescuers are very good people, you know. Rescuers are actually, and if I am in a room full of teachers, I can say with reasonable confidence that most of you are actually rescuers. Most of us. And rescuers are basically people who like to help others, whose tagline is "Let me do this for you." And rescuers also tend to be perfectionists, because they, has it happened to you, you don't like to delegate, because if you delegate, if you ask the students to study on their own, or if you ask them to figure it out on their own, they will not complete the syllabus, and that gives you a tremendous anxiety. That's a rescuer's behavior. So rescuer is like that mother or the father who will do everything in the house himself or herself, because nobody else can do it as good as they do, right? So what happens is that rescuers invariably end up creating victims in their wake. And who is a victim? Victim is the person who never learns how to do things, because there is always a rescuer doing it for him or her. When a mother does everything for the child is very happy because the food is cooked, the clothes are ironed, I don't have to wash clothes, I can always sit and watch play computer games. But one thing is happening, I am not learning how to cook, I am not learning how to wash clothes, I am not learning to take care of myself. So basically, I have been created into a victim. And victims, when they enter into real life situation, they lose confidence altogether, right? Simply because nobody has given them the opportunity. And finally comes the persecutors. What happens? Why is the victim so scared? Because one day the rescuer turns back on them and they say that, why can't you do anything on your own? Right. So we also do that as teachers. We say that one day we tell the students that, in Western nations, students do such difficult topics, write such difficult essays on their own. How come you can't do it? They publish such wonderful papers. How come you can't do it? And then we sound like the persecutor. I am okay, you are not okay. We are scolding them without giving them a solution, right? And this triangle, this Rama triangle continues. So what we need to do is, instead of a rescuer, we have to become what is called a coach. What is the difference between a rescuer and a coach? See, the rescuer does the job for the student. The coach creates opportunities. The coach creates a challenge, lets the student make mistake. Okay, you go ahead and make mistake, but the effort is rewarded, and they empower and delegate. So when they make multiple mistakes for the first time, second time, third time, they gradually learn how to do things, right? So that is the most important thing, creating a stretch goal for our students as teachers, and that is how we shape the emergent leaders. So whatever field you want to create a leader on, so suppose you're teaching entrepreneurship and you want to, or you are heading as incubation center, you want to create startup owners. It's not about teaching theories to them, it's about letting them get their hands dirty in a startup, right? Do internships and create very difficult goals for them, right? Work in an internship, increase their profit, or try to get them more customers, and you will be evaluated on that, not on how much you can learn theories, but on how many customers you can bring to a startup. So that will actually create a challenge for the student which goes beyond the ordinary, instead of becoming a persecutor. So when you put these challenges in front of them, they will make mistakes, of course. So when we become a persecutor, we scold, but then we need to become a challenger. So what does the challenger do? See, the challenger does two things. One is the challenger gives a feed forward and not a feedback, which basically means that what should be done next time, that's more important, rather than telling what was wrong last time. So next time, a forward-looking approach works better in giving feedback and being objective in praise and criticism. So how many of us do this? A lot of teachers often say that you never come to the class on time and you are always late. So always and never are very dangerous words because they are usually not correct. So what happens, instead of that, if we give objectivity when we praise or criticize, that makes people understand things better. So what will happen as a result? Our students, instead of feeling like victims of the system that I will rather follow, they become creators. You have to push them, you have to push a little baby duck into the water for making it swim. So once they try their hands at two projects, they fail, but they do it. Third project, they say that yes, I have done it twice, let me do it now. So that's the only way people learn. You have to let them make mistakes and still compliment them, still saying that they have done a wonderful job. So then that will develop their self esteem, and even if they make failure, they will learn from their situation to not make that same mistake a second time. So this is called the empowerment dynamic, and that is exactly how we transform the situations, right? That's the way we make people feel that they are okay. How do we make people feel that they are okay? We need to make them feel okay by giving them opportunities first. And second, we make them feel okay by giving them compliments. Compliments are wonderful things to give. So when you tell a person that you have been good, their face light up. Their faces light up. And why does it happen? Because it feels good to know that we are good. That's what a leader, transformational leaders, these are the two biggest tools in their hand. And the leader can only do that provided he or she himself or herself is confident that they can manage the situation, right? I will only allow the students to ask questions in the class when I know that I know the answers to the questions. Or even more interesting, even if I don't know the answers to the question, that doesn't diminish my importance as a teacher. When I have that amount of self confidence, I will let a class ask questions. If not, I will not give it time, right? That's the important part of being a transformational leader. So, just to come to the final lap of the session, how can we create transformational classrooms? See, whatever we have discussed till now, please ask me if you have any questions till this point. Uh, it's actually applicable to any life situation, be it family, be it friends, be it a corporate organization, be it a classroom. But what specifically can we do for our classrooms? So there are some very important tried and tested tips which we want to share with you. If you find any one of this interesting, please make a use of this in class, and do let us know if you are already doing something like this, what has worked out for you. So to create a transformational classroom, let us first take a look at this chart. This is very interesting, and please let me know how it works for you. See, there are two kind of leadership behavior. One kind of leadership behavior is called power behavior, and another kind of leadership behavior is called relationship behavior. So power behavior basically talks about behaviors that show power, status. I am better than you. For example, what are those? For formal communication. So writing emails, formal address, when you talk to a person, you address that person formally. Second is detached responses. So remember, when your superior is talking to a subordinate, the subordinate says, sir, good morning. Good morning. So you don't really even look at that person or smile at that person, right? If you remember movie clips where the policemen, the constables salute to their bosses, and the boss doesn't even salute, right? Or the boss just simply nods. That's a detached behavior. And expanded personal space. So you sit at a distance. You don't sit close. You put them at a distance from you. Interruptions. So subordinate is speaking, boss can interrupt, right? So you just talk over the person. Says, okay, okay, I understand. Let's cut it short over there, right? Then finger pointing, head shaking. So you say no or yes, or you point a finger, get this done right now. So this kind of, non-verbal markers. Less polite. You can tell them something like get this done instead of please get this done. Right? Sometimes we do that. That's a power move of a leader. Or inattentiveness. Someone is talking to you, a subordinate comes and talks to you, you say okay, go on, and you start looking through something else while they are talking. You don't ask them to sit down, right? This is also power marker. Please note that these are not bad behavior, by the way. These are very effective. So leaders know these are tools, when to use it, how to use it, right? Power markers, inattentiveness, and little to no note taking. So, when we are very attentive to a leader, what we do is we take extensive notes, right? We want to impress, so we write down everything they say. But when we are leaders ourselves, do we take notes of what our subordinates are saying? Not all the time. Right, and the opposite side is the relationship marker, right? Informal communication, showing empathy, leaning forward, smiling, nodding your head, respectful, conversation and turn taking, not interrupt, hearing others out, polite, attentive, and so on. Now, which kind of behavior should you do with your leader and which kind of behavior should you do with your subordinate? See, each one of us probably are in roles where there is a leader and there is a subordinate, right? Or maybe your students. Which roles we usually do to you should do with your leader and which role should you do to your subordinate? Quickly, any response? Please don't put it in the chat box. I can't see the chat box here. So if you can tell me the answer. Okay, let's see if something has come up in the chat box. So, which kind of roles you do with your leader and which kind you do with your subordinates? Uh, Quick question. Anybody, any answer? See, usually what happens is that we tend to do the first with our leader and the second with our subordinates, right? Power moves we try with our subordinates and relationship moves we try with our leaders. If you want to create a transformational classroom, do the opposite. You see, let your students be more informal with you. Show them more empathy. Show them more respect, which invariably means that they will be a little less respectful towards you, in the sense that they will not be so servilely obedient. They will not take notes, they will treat you like an equal. So to create an empathetic classroom, the first thing we do is basically transformational classroom. The first thing we do is to create a classroom in which the power dynamics are a little relaxed. We don't have so much of power distance, right? And these are very simple gestures through which we actually end up showing the behavior, right? Make conversations more informal, pay them more respect. If they are talking, not interrupting them, listening out to them, and so on. The second thing, so how do we create a transformational classroom? First, delegate part of the learning to students as teachers. Now, this is a very time tested technique, and the educators across the world are saying this. See, the saying is that we learn best when we teach. Right. Everyone who has been a teacher knows this, that the same concepts which we have learned when we were students, we learned much better when we were teachers. Right? Because when you are teaching, you are in far more pressure to know the concept end to end so that you can deliver it better. So, what about if we make students the teachers? Right. If there is so many concepts to teach in the syllabus, half of them which can be delegated, just allocate them to student groups and ask them to take a session, ask them to teach the concept to the student. Whatever they are missing out, you can add at the end of the session. But what invariably happens as a result is that students try more, they try to learn, and what they learn in the process they will never forget. So they are recommending that at least 15 to 20 minutes in every session must go to the student. Let them talk, let them share their ideas, so that they also act as teachers and contribute to the classroom. The second thing is reserving time for visionary discussion, showing the larger picture. So, one of my friends used to talk about a teacher who was his favorite teacher. And what this teacher did was he was a biology teacher, he taught biology in schools. But what he did was invariably every 10 minutes of his lecture time he used to keep apart every day. And in those 10 minutes, he used to give them what may be called moral science lessons. He used to give them very inspirational speeches about, be a human being first. Good students, everybody can become, but you have to be a good human being. You have to work for the nation, and this kind of inspirational speeches. The students have invariably forgotten whatever biology he used to teach. Those classes, parts of the classes, they have forgotten. What they clearly remember are those 10 minutes, right? So that is very important, those visionary discussions, showing them the larger picture, why they are doing certain things, and particularly important for students who are in the growing age, who are in your classrooms, because they need this inspirational communication, because nobody else is giving it to them. And that is where the role of the teacher becomes important. Third is a role model for the behavior you wish to see in the classroom. If you want them to take challenges yourself and talk about what you have achieved, right? So if there is something I want my student to go and apply for competitions, I want my students to go and clear different exams, I have to show them that I did it and I managed it, right? And that will make the students think that yes, I can do it too, right? And that is exactly what makes a very important transformational leader, that we have to show that we have the potential in ourselves to our students first. Only then they will become inspired. And most important, have empathy. Provide students that special attention. Now, like for example, you see, the biggest thing about most difficult thing about a teacher's classroom, and we'll close with this, is the challenge that there are too many students in your class, right? And because there are too many students, you cannot give everybody the individual attention. So many a time they will actually behave in ways which are pretty inexplicable, and that makes us feel pretty frustrated as teachers. Now it is not working out, you are not really working out to be the person that I want. But empathy is the most important thing that a teacher can bring to the classroom, which basically makes them feel that they are important, they are valued, and they are totally important for the classroom, right? So this is one important thing that we have to show, that wherever they are actually bringing in the value to the class. So we had a video over here. Do we have time, Professor, to show a video?
Yes, ma'am, we have time. No
Okay,
problem.
great. So let me just show you a small video, and this video is basically, it will have a lot of words in it, so I request everyone to read what is written over there. The setting is a hospital setting, and in that setting, there will be some people who are shown, and please go through it and see if you find it interesting. Let me know if the sound is reaching you, huh?
No, ma'am, we can't hear.
Okay, so let me share it once again. So let me may try to make the share once again. Okay, just one second, just hold on. So what I'll do is that since the sound is not coming from the video, I'm going to share it on YouTube with everyone, and let's just take a look at the video on YouTube, and let me know your thoughts on this. Right. All right, so I'm sharing the tab now. I hope you can see the video. I'm playing the song. Can you hear it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. It's audible.
So this video is actually very interesting. What it does is I think there's an echo sound that's coming. See, what this video does is it basically talks about something very important about how to be a leader and what is most important in building relationships. And that somewhere probably we have to each one of these persons shown in this video could be each one of our students, right? And sometimes students are difficult, sometimes we feel that why aren't they ready to listen to us, and that's because they are probably going through different kind of life situations of which we know very little. And the same holds true for the teacher as well. And the question that we ask is that if we can stand in someone else's shoes, if we can hear what they hear, see what they see, feel what they feel, would we treat them differently? And that's probably a very important question to ask. So just to close, we close with a very interesting story from David Ogilvy. Ogilvy is the famous designer. Ogilvy's studio of advertisement is the very interesting designer of the dairy milk ad "Kuch Khas hai Zindagi mein," right? So that's the claim to fame. So the story of Ogilvy goes like this, which he writes in his book on Ogilvy on advertising, that whenever somebody joined Ogilvy, Ogilvy is one of the biggest marketing and advertising designing brands of the world. So whenever anybody joined Ogilvy office at the level of leadership, mid manager or leadership, what they saw on their table was a Russian doll. You something like this, the stacked dolls or babushka. So when you open it, you see inside it there is another doll. So what happened? The leader is supposed to open the dolls one after another, and at the end of the, so dolls come out from the tummy of the other doll, and at the in the last doll, smallest doll, there is a piece of paper invariably. So the leader found this, and what is written in that piece of paper is this: if each one of us hires people who are smaller than we are, we shall become a company of dwarfs. But if each one of us hires people who are bigger than we are, we shall become a company of giants. So, what he tells on the first day to his managers who are going to be leaders, that whenever you are dealing with people, make sure that the people become bigger than you. That's the only way to survive. Because if we invariably end up making our students, our subordinates smaller than us, we shall be surrounded by dwarfs and they will bring us down. But if we make them larger than us, we will be surrounded by giants and they are going to pick us up. So that's the final thing about creating emerging leaders. The only way to create emergent leaders, shaping emergent leaders, is to empower them, is to make them feel that they are powerful, and to make them feel that they are actually people who can build situations where they can actually work and become leaders themselves. That's the most important thing about transformational leadership. That's the most important thing about being a leader who can transform a situation. So, this is all from my end, and I think that's also time. And so, if there is any time to take any questions here, with the permission of Professor Solanki, if there are any questions, we'd love to take that.
Yes, ma'am. We have still 25 minutes to take the questions.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
I
So,
would
yes.
request all the participants to please put up your questions or ask the questions directly to ma'am. Yes, Praveen Kurian, you have raised your hand. Please, you can put up the question to ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, this is regarding that empowerment dynamic you mentioned.
Mhm.
I missed out the point regarding feed forward. Uh,
Okay. Mhm. Okay, so you want to know like how what feed forward is, how it works. That's it.
exactly.
All right. See, in the empowerment dynamics, so we talk about the role of the challenger, right? So the challenger is one who basically works on two bases. They feed forward instead of feeding back to the person, and the second thing is that they are providing objective feedback. So, what is feed forward? So, the idea is that when we say feedback, it is basically the idea that we tell a person what you have done wrong in certain situation, and then we show the person that what was the mistakes that the person has made in the past. So feedback usually comes at the end of an event, but the idea is that if you give a feedback at the end of an event, it is quite useless, because the person doesn't know what to do with the feedback. I will not do that thing once again, right? So what do I do with that information? So instead of that, instead of telling, for example, a person that your speech tonight was absolutely terrible, you can actually tell what should they do next time, and that's feed forward, right? So it's like saying that yes, of course, yes, you put up a lot of effort, your enthusiasm showed, maybe next time you can also try to throw your voice more, or maybe next time you can use more jokes. So that what happens as a result is that the person knows exactly what to do next time, and that information is more useful. So simply telling a person you are good or bad in a historical situation is feedback, but telling the person what to do next time is feed forward, and that is exactly what is being uh, done. It should be done by leaders who want to create more emergent leaders. That is, tell them exactly what needs to be done next time, rather than simply giving them a transactional quote of you have got 70 out of 100 in an exam. Does that clarify?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Right.
other
Any?
questions, please? I request you all to please put up your questions. Any clarifications required? Ma'am is there.
Yes, any question, thoughts, or clarifications? Would love to know how you are doing it in your classrooms and what is happening there. How many of these techniques you are using
Hello,
yourself?
ma'am.
Yes,
Am I
please
audible?
tell. Yes, you're
Yeah,
audible.
when you
Valid.
mentioned that power and relationship,
Mm-hmm.
that that role needs to be changed little bit so that it will help
Mm-hmm.
to go for the transformation. So whether it
Mm-hmm.
will go somewhere in a negative way, if we more like for students from that point of view, if we'll be more empathy or more respectful or more friendly with them, in
Mm-hmm.
that case whether it will go little bit they will not listen to us, or at up to what level exactly we should do this, manage that power and relationship transformation for both
All
the.
right. Okay. So, Alice, that's a brilliant question. Yes, absolutely right. And you hit the nail on the head, because this is actually the whole challenge about shaping emergent leaders. See, as we are talking about it, so let me try to answer that question. Uh, as we had talked about in the class, that one thing that is very important for a teacher or a leader to have trust in others is that the leader must first have trust in himself or herself. So, unless that is present, it is not possible for the leader to have trust on other people. Now, when we are talking about this power and relationship behaviors, the dimensions, you say, why do someone need to display a power behavior? Power behaviors are usually often we display without even consciously noticing that we are doing a power behavior. We just invariably do it, right? So, for example, let me take an example that suppose a very respected person comes into our house, right? A senior elder, someone who is very powerful in the society. We open the door and we say, "Welcome, please come in, please have a seat." We like with folded hands, and or we shake hands. We try to bring out the best cutlery to serve tea or coffee, right? That's a kind of behavior. We show relationship behavior, that we are empathetic, we are welcoming. So imagine the house domestic help coming in, and do we react the same way? Or the building guard coming in, how do we react? Right? Not the same way, right? We open the door and say, yes, yeah, tell me, what do you want? Yeah, and like that we talk, right? A lot of times. What happens? We do it often without consciously noticing. But how do this power and relationship behaviors develop? Power behavior basically develop in order to show that I am more powerful than you are. I am in control of that situation. And when we show a power behavior, we also convince the other party that, see, you are not in this situation, you are not the powerful person, I am. So remember the dialogue from Chak De India when Shah Rukh Khan tells the team of girls that हर टीम में एक ही गुंडा हो सकता है और इस टीम का गुंडा मैं हूँ, right? So that's the thing when we communicate through the power behavior. Now, when we come to relationship behavior, that's just the opposite we want to communicate. We want to say that at least we are friends. If not, I am, it's not that I'm lower to you, but at least we are friends here. We can trust each other. Now, when we do that, the invariable risk is that we run is that we lose control, right? And we feel that we are going to lose control because the student is going to probably do things that may be a problem. Herein, it is actually true that risk remains whenever you are going to give part of your power to the students. So they will also, or to your subordinates, so they will also feel that sometimes they will take advantage of the situation because you are very friendly to them. They may not listen to you. They might sometimes try to negotiate with you or try to be unruly. But at the end of the day, if we are confident about what we want from them, and if we are perfectly clear in our communication and not swerving, see, now building a relationship behavior doesn't really mean that you yield, you compromise. So, teachers who are effective are good for two things. One thing is they are very kind, they are nice people to talk to, but at the same time, they are very consistent. So, remember at the start of the class, many told us that these leaders who didn't like were not consistent. They were confused, they could not stick to their word. We like people who are nice, who are kind, but we also like people who are consistent. So the leader will not change the ground just because someone is trying to negotiate. They will change the ground only when there is a reason, but at the same time, they will be polite in doing that. So that creates somewhere the balance between the two acts, being nice to people, but at the same time not losing control. So probably students in the beginning, there will be some students who will try to take advantage of the situation, but very soon they will know that, my professor is a tough nut to crack. They may be very nice, they may be very polite, but you cannot just negotiate a deadline out of them. So they understand that very soon, and consequently, they don't try to take advantage of the matter anymore. And there will always be those who get inspired by you and who actually for whom this system works very well, and it's worth taking that risk. So that confidence comes in us with time, and we really make that happen. So does that answer the question to
Yes,
an
yes.
extent?
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. uh, I think we have a question from Mr. Professor Joseph here.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we use I to we to he in servant leadership? Okay. uh, could you please tell me a little more about this technique, Professor? I to we to he in servant leadership. How are you using it and what kind of challenges are you facing? Can you elaborate on this a little bit, please?
Joseph, sir, I would request you to please unmute yourself and clarify this question.
Yes, madam, this is on Christ-centered leadership, like how
Okay.
the church has been using as such,
Mm-hmm.
and teaching it to special kids becomes sometimes awry as such when we use the little bit of spirituality in the class as such.
I see.
So that is why I put it like I one. So teaching it to two becomes two. That is he, and finally bringing out to spirituality as such. Because like I use some of the music therapy classes for them on basis of Christ-centered leadership as such, being
Understood.
to the church basis as such. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get a little bit confused. Like we can't handle all the students; they are a little bit on different emotional intelligent patterns as such.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like teaching to ADHD and teaching to
Mm-hmm.
teaching to a student coming from broken houses is a different perspective
Mhm.
altogether. So that is the
That's
thing
true.
I wanted to get, like how can we use it out in on psychological perspectives as such.
I understand. Okay. Okay. So, Professor, thank you for that question. So, first of all, let me say that I am not very familiar with this dimension of like leadership. Teaching like Christ-centered leadership. So I probably will be talking from the top of my mind response here. I don't have any authority on this subject as such. But I can see a very interesting classroom challenge which you are talking about. That is probably is my recipient ready for that knowledge that which I want to transfer to them, right? And the problem that you are facing is that a cohort which is very divergent, right? And particularly teaching special children, specially able children, where we who have worked with them, we know that there can be multiple kind of challenges that can come up in such classrooms. Many a time they are probably not ready for the information that is coming up, and how do we convey that? uh, uh, I, from what I know and what I can think of, I can actually share this. Please see if that works for you. See, one important thing is that the learner centered approach, which basically says that even before we end up teaching something to somebody, we need to create a need for that thing in the learner. And to do that, we need to probably first find out what the learner wants and from the classroom. So what I want to teach will come a lot later. First thing is that why are you even in this classroom, and what do exactly do you want at this point? And once I figured that out, I have to connect somewhere my learning and my teaching to that particular need of that person, and that will probably ultimately lead him or her to the knowledge that we want to convey, right? So probably somewhere it might help to simplify the concepts, and probably take it to first what they want to learn, what they want to do. And through these four, probably some people want to do activities, right? They don't want to listen to the theory that I want to teach them. They want to draw a picture. Let them draw a picture. So but that picture can be given on a specific topic, and in that they will probably actually interact with the concept with a little more energy than if I want to talk about the concept that I want to talk about. Or some may say that I just want to go and play outside, and fine, so do play, but in the play can be designed in a manner in which people are going to see that I bring in a particular concept, so sometimes in the MBA classrooms also we have to do it, so like the so-called best brains of the country, and sometimes they don't want to study. So what we have to do is that we use a lot of experiential exercises. Okay, fine, you are sleepy in the classroom, let's go out and let's play a game. And when they play a game, we end up teaching them a leadership theory in the process, but they have just played a game outside, huh? So they have just probably tried to overcome some obstacles that tied up their eyes and taking them around. So what happens, the child never forgets that lesson because they had fun. Those kind of techniques, I'm sure you must be using some of those also in your classroom. That definitely helps. And like that, that Gautam Buddha story, Lord Buddha story that we shared at the beginning of the session, it depends on the answer that we give depends on the learner. So if the learner is ready, whatever will interest the learner, whatever will make the learner explore more, that is the question that is to be placed by the teacher. It's not what I want to teach, that comes later. What the learner what will make the learner explore more is what is the teacher's first job. And that's the whole approach of learner centered learning. I'm sure you must be using some of this in your classrooms. Does that
Yes, yes, yes,
answer,
yes,
answer that
yes.
question a bit?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay,
God
thank you
bless.
so much, sir.
Any more questions, please?
Okay.
Shirley, if you can read out your question.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, please.
My question is that wouldn't it be advisable to use varied leadership styles, depending on the various situations?
All right. So you mean transactional in some cases, transformational in some cases?
Right, right.
Yeah. So, ma'am, what you are saying is absolutely another tenet of psychology, and which is a time-tested things that all leaders agree that it depends on the maturity of the followers also. So, thank you for bringing this up. This is something we had not talked about in the class when we are discussing the topic. When we are trying to shape emergent leaders, one challenge that we sometimes face is that not all your emergent leaders will be of the same maturity. Like we had this question earlier also from Shailaji, that sometimes they may actually try to take advantage of the situation, or some persons, because they don't have habit in working independently, they may actually panic in when you give them too much independence, and they may actually say that the teacher is really bad teacher. So this has happened to recently to one of my colleagues who is in a government college in West Bengal. So there was a complaint against him to the principal of the college, and the complaint was basically, sir doesn't give notes, sir encourages us to read from the book and develop our own notes. So much for transformations and so much for creating emergent leaders. So he wanted the students to read the books themselves and figure out about the poetry. He's an English teacher, and what invariably came back to him was that uh, you don't give notes, so you are a bad teacher. So of course we run that risk sometimes. So we probably, being practical, we have to be judicious about how much we use transformational leadership. But at the end of the day, what happens when we don't take that risk, uh, it we also end up contributing to a system which encourages mediocrity, and the problem which could have been solved in a generation continues for generation after generation, and that's actually a very big problem. So it also remains to be said, and which is a very important point you have brought up, Professor, that it is the management which has a very important role to play here. So those of us here, I'm sure, some of us here must be in management roles in educational institutions. They have a very important role to play here. So when you're encouraging teachers to be shaping emergent leaders, you need to be supportive of them, so that when they take the risk of creating a transformational classroom, they do not face the brunt of it. When students try to go rogue or they don't figure out, they panic. Transformation takes time. It's whenever we try to build something from the scratch. So suppose we buy biryani from a shop, it takes 5 minutes. Like you order on Zomato, it just reaches you. But when you try to cook it at home, it takes 3 hours. So if you want to make your students leaders, of course it is going to take time, and that kind of support also needs to be present. So the role of the management is also pretty huge in creating a transformational classroom. And yes, till the time the student doesn't show the maturity, so there is actually a concept. So the leadership theory, which we call the situational leadership theory, and also the contingency theory of leadership, you might want to go through that, and if you are not already familiar with this. So this basically says that when your follower is not mature, and when your follower is not skilled enough, then probably you have to be a directional leader. That is, you have to show them the way. For example, when you are teaching your child ABCD, you cannot let them innovate on ABCD. You have to tell them this is what it is, just copy and mug up, right? But when they grow a little mature, then you need to probably say that you innovate at this point of time. So when followers become more skilled and mature, then the leader should be ready to change the style. That is what is very important. If we have landed up with a batch which we feel that it's absolutely immature, they won't be able to handle what I want to teach them, then probably it is important to handhold in the beginning, but later on we should know when to give up. So just one example comes to my mind. I'll just quickly share it here if time permits. So this is called the difference between the cat leadership and the monkey leadership style. So I hope some of us might be familiar with this. Have you ever seen a cat mother and a monkey mother? How do they treat their children? So what does a cat mother do? How does it deal with its baby kittens? Have you ever seen a cat mother pick up the kitten? How does it pick it up?
by its neck generally.
Ah, excellent, excellent, Ankitji. So what it does, it just picks it up by its neck and puts it in another situation, right? From here to there. So the baby is absolutely passive. The baby doesn't cling to the mother or the kitten. Baby kitten doesn't do anything. So whatever the mother wants, that's what it does with the baby. That's called a cat style of leadership, right? So you take the baby wherever you want to take it, you put it there, you feed it whatever you want, and as opposed to a monkey. So what does a monkey do? Ever seen a monkey mother with a child? How does it carry its child?
The
uh,
child is
yes,
generally hugging the monkey mother at the abdomen.
Clings to the mother. Clings to the mother.
links to the mother. Brilliant. So Ankit absolutely right, and Chandra ma'am absolutely correct. So what happens is that the in case of the monkey, the opposite happens. The monkey clings to the mother, and the child is you see, the mother has his hands free because the mother has to climb up on trees, right? So all his limbs must be free. So what it does is it tries to climb trees, and the child is hanging on to the mother with all its four limbs, right? And sometimes when the mother sees that it is getting too rough, they put down the child and go ahead and do something, right? So that is what the child has to take agency in that point of time. So this is, see, leadership is also like that, the monkey leadership and the cat leadership, and it is said that you maintain a balance between the two. So when we realize that the followers are really immature, they will probably not be able to handle this kind of situation. Either it is too tough for them at this point, or it is they are going to take advantage. We have to be a little directional and be like a cat mother, pick it up from one situation, put it to another situation. But the important thing is that sometimes that becomes a habit, and we don't know when to give up control. So we do session after session, and class after batch after batch in the same cat style, never giving them the opportunity to become monkeys, right? So that is exactly where we should also be watchful, that now my batch is sufficiently mature, let them induct into the field of being independent, emergent leaders. And unless we give them the opportunity, they will never be able to do it. So the thing is, they will always appear like kittens to us in the first place. They will, and this is true, they will always appear like kittens, but you have to take a chance and see how many of them have matured. If not, come back to your cat style. If they have matured, then we are ready to move to the next level. Okay, does that answer the question to a bit?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So that
Are
might
there any
be
more
one.
questions? If not, I would request my student Jayan Kodke to present a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, I would like to present a vote of thanks. I would like to thank the speaker first, Dr. Bishakha Majumdar, for enlightening us with your wise words and experience on such important topics. She explained through her stories and mind-stimulating quizzes the concept of transactional and charismatic leaders. It has surely motivated all the participants to dig deeper to find an individual's own style of leadership and to endeavor to be transactional and charismatic leaders. The video ma'am played invoked a deep sense of sympathy and understanding in all of us and definitely made us reassess the way to treat one another. We have had an extremely wonderful time with you, ma'am, and are grateful to you for giving us your precious time. I would also like to thank all the participants for making this session very lively and interactive with your presence. I would like to express my gratitude to our principal, Dr. Mohan Murudi sir, FDP coordinator, Dr. Shamli Solanki ma'am, FDP co-coordinator, Dr. Kiran Bhole sir, and Professor Ankit Ashar sir. With this, we would conclude today's session of FDP program. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. Thanks for
Thank you,
the
madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.